Nick Fluck, welcome again to the University of Huddersfield.
Thank you.
You're a Huddersfield graduate.
Twice now.
Twice. How did it feel today to receive your honorary award?
To be honest, it was a bit of a lump in the throat moment. Standing on the stage while Sean Curley did the oration gave me a chance to think about the years since I last graduated from this place, which was in 1979. And it's one of those things that just connects you with a long part of your history. Looking back to myself being a student in the days when I actually had to work to get a degree, rather than this one which I've been very pleased to be awarded. And I have to say it's a very moving moment.
And you were, I won't say last here, but when you were here as an undergraduate, in fact you graduated in 1979, you were on a BA Humanities course.
I was.
Which area did you focus on, and why did that lead you into law? Because it's not an obvious connection.
It absolutely isn't. And my BA Honours in Humanities was mainly French and English. French is the main subject, English is a subsidiary subject. And at the time, I had thought that it might be quite fun to become a teacher of French. As part of that BA Honours in Humanities, I spent a year in France teaching English. And I think that over the course of that year, although I had an absolutely fantastic time, as you'd imagine, on the loose in Provence, it probably crystallised the thoughts that I'd had many years before. So I started thinking about being a lawyer when I was 8.
Right.
And effectively I reverted to plan A.
Right, and 8? Oh, that's very young.
Well, I met an inspirational lawyer.
I see, right.
My late father was the vicar of a little parish near Stamford, where my firm now is, and one of his church wardens was the senior partner of a local law firm. And he was one of those guys who just got on with making people's lives better for them, just quietly, in the background, unassumingly. Just a thoroughly decent, thoroughly straightforward, honest, very skilled, very clever, very subtle man. And I think as much as anything else, my interest in the law came from seeing somebody like that as a role model.
And not an easy time to get to become a law graduate, because you had to earn some money, didn't you? And you did so on a farm, I believe.
I did. I worked for a year on a farm in the Lincolnshire Wolds. In fact, in Tennyson country, it was at the village of Somersby that I worked, and I put in a year, lived at home, saved every bean I earned, in order to be able to fund my way through the then CPD course, the CPE course it was called then, the Common Professional Exam, which was the sort of conversion of any other degree to becoming a law degree. And then I went on and did the Law Society Finals course.
Your practice is still in Lincolnshire, isn't it?
Well, the same inspirational chap who made me think as an 8-year-old that it might be quite an interesting thing to be a lawyer didn't have an excuse handy when I was looking for an articleship. I rang him out of the blue and said, might be coming up to finishing my Law Society Finals in about another 6 or 8 months. Any chance? As I say, he didn't have an excuse handy, so bless him, he said, yes, come and join my firm, where I've been ever since.
So why did a lawyer from Lincolnshire want to move to the national stage?
Good question. I think as much as anything else, it's part of what all lawyers will understand. If you speak to any lawyer, you'll find that underneath everything else they do, there's a little bit of you that wants to do something for your community, for your coterie, for your profession, and for the public. And I think there's a little bit of that in me. And obviously I stopped managing to tread it down manfully enough for just long enough to find I got elected onto the council.
So you must have been a popular lad, because to be elected onto what is the Law Society, and eventually to become president, would you agree you were a popular lad, or isn't that the word you would use?
Probably not. I think the way it works is that you get involved. And like anything else, you get involved. There are some people who volunteer and there are some who don't. Once you volunteer, you're immediately your own worst enemy. Because if you're going to do it properly, you then ride yourself to make sure you do the best job you can. And obviously I managed to fool just enough of the people for just long enough that they managed to vote for me.
And what as you think back about your presidency, what was the one thing that, in fact, actually broadening that to your career generally, what's the thing that you most take pride in as a lawyer or president of the Law Society?
Well, I think during my presidency, the thing I take pride in most of all is the things that I've done with members of my profession, the people I've met, and there are some truly outstanding folk there. I've been delighted today to meet some more of the truly outstanding folk who are going to go on and become the next generation of practicing lawyers. And they are really special people. And that means that you come across all sorts and conditions of folk. But I think as a practicing lawyer myself, some of the things I've enjoyed most of all are the things that are a bit offbeat. I have one particular recollection that one of the least financially beneficial bits of advice I've ever given was to an elderly lady who came to see me to ask me to sell her house. And I said, of course, delighted, went through the preliminaries with her and realised after a while that she was rather down in the mouth about this. And I said, this is a new start for you, moving on, sheltered accommodation, somewhere where you can be safe and secure. You don't seem very happy. She said, no, she says, I don't want to move. So we talked a bit more, and it turned out that I'd dealt with her late husband's estate when he'd done about 4 years before. And her children had been badgering her, saying, you really can't stay in this house, Mum, any longer. You've got 4 flights of steps, it's an end terrace 3-storey property, and you're not safe on the stairs anymore, you'll have to move. And if you move, of course, you could sell this big old millstone of a house and share out the surplus money you don't need for the sheltered accommodation in 4 ways. So we had a look at the situation she found herself in, and I put her in touch with a well-known stairlift company who put her a stairlift in about a week or 2 later. And I'm delighted to say I got not a single penny out of that bit of advice, but I got one very, very happy client who spent the rest of her life there and left as she'd always wanted to do, feet first. I also lost 4 clients because I used to act for all 4 of her children who, funnily enough, didn't feel I'd been playing their game for them. But that's just a reminiscence from real practice. I think the other bits you get to do there are some special things you do as President of the Law Society. Probably the best sort of CV winning bit that I've got out of this year was I was invited to speak at the UN in New York. And I flew there to speak at the UN. I had a 3-minute speaking slot. So I had 14 hours worth of round trip in the air for a 3-minute speaking slot. But I was also invited to chair a panel which included people like Adama Dieng, the Special UN Ambassador for the Prevention of Genocide, Her Excellency, the Special Commissioner for Iceland, and various other luminary bodies on this panel. And it's, as I say, it's just the people you meet, the folk that you get to spend time with.
As you know, the university has opened a law clinic in Huddersfield Town Centre for those people who want advice on law. It's run by the students with the help of the university staff. And I say you know that about this, you opened it.
I did.
I was wondering, what does the law mean to you? As a man who's been at the very top and has worked and still works, day-to-day life of the legal system, what does the law mean to you?
Okay. Well, for a start, the law is a huge subject. We're all subject to the law, and I think that everybody recognises that we're very fond of saying law and order, and those things go together. They do in this country. They don't in every country. Some countries have law without order. Quite a lot of countries have order without law. And I think that the distinction that we are most proud of as lawyers is that we have found that there needs to be checks and balances between the power of the state and the power of the individual. And for a lot of their lives, what lawyers do is they make sure that that balance remains appropriately set between state and individuals. Lawyers fight people's corner for them. Lawyers represent people in court. Lawyers advise people on what they should do, even if sometimes those people who are receiving that advice choose to do something different. But certainly the law as a topic is huge. It regulates the way in which people live in our society. And I think that what people fail to realise a lot of the time is that lawyers do two things. They face inwards as any other professional does, they talk to their clients, they do the day job for money. The other thing they do is they work on making sure that the law that they work in remains appropriate. So a big part of the role of the Law Society as a national body, for example, is to make sure that we keep tabs on the way in which the law is changing and developing, to make sure that laws are developed that are sensible and safe and work to promote social values, not to destroy them. That's why I think one of my most difficult tasks throughout this year as President of the Law Society has been dealing with the government's intention to change, for financial reasons, the availability of legal aid, both in civil cases and in criminal cases. And that, I think, is in danger of upsetting, perhaps fatally upsetting, the balance. And it's a balance that needs to be looked at very carefully. There are some obvious common sense things. So, for example, civil law. People used to be able to get legal aid to help them with things like divorce and so on, if they qualified for under income thresholds. And very frequently they got a very small amount of very skilled, very technical advice from a qualified lawyer, which might well save them tens or even hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of needless strife with the state. People who lose council houses because they get their process of breaking up their marriage wrong. Both parties end up needing to be rehoused in due course, often as emergencies. Provisions for children, crucially important. And those sorts of things where people simply need a little bit of a steer. And now I think that with the balance of removal of a lot of civil legal aid scope, and I'm afraid the curtailment of a lot of situations where it was previously available, makes it very hard for people to get that crucial bit of advice at the right time. It's like, just getting on the surfboard at the right point of the wave, rather than finding you're in the trough behind it battling. And many people just need that help. And so I think the law is a framework, but it's a framework that supports society and the way we live. And I think you get, largely speaking, the law that is prescribed for you by your state, but managed, fine-tuned, operated, and to a certain extent, of course, sold by the lawyers who work within that framework.
Nick, I hope you've enjoyed your day with us today, and I hope this isn't the last time that we'll see you, even though you're a long way away down in Lincolnshire.
It's only 2.5 hours, and I've been very pleased to be here today, and I've also said to Sean Curley and Chris Cowton and various others that if they want me to come back and talk to students again, I'd be delighted to do so.
The University of Huddersfield, inspiring tomorrow's professionals.